What's up, guys? It's Rey-Jay back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's happening with SPY, Tsla, Nvda, the QQQ, and a couple of other tickers. I'm also going to talk about some very, very key levels to watch for and why we're about to see a very, very big test in the markets. But just know that I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out my Moomoo link. If you deposit $100, you're guaranteed 5 free stocks. If you deposit $2,000 or more, you're guaranteed 30 in total. Not to mention 8.1% APY on invested cash. This offer has been extended until the end of March, so please check it out before they run out. Anyways, let's talk about what's happening with the market, at least thus far. So, as far as the market is going, all right, we have this trend line of resistance to watch for. I'm actually going to correct this right over here, but it doesn't really matter because what matters is this upper move right over here. So we have this resistance to watch for right in this range. And we're going to be watching to see if SPY will hold support or not, because that's going to be very key for how we end up developing. But just know that as far as SPY is going, we're at resistance. We haven't broken this yet. We're going to be watching to see, do we get that break or rejection right here? That's going to be very key for how we end up continuing. So I'll talk about some key levels in just a minute. Just know that today is Thursday, January 16th. We just got initial jobless claims. This was not too bad. Initial jobless claims were at about 217,000. This is a little bit above expectations, not too far from them. And all the other pieces of data are quite close. Like continuing jobless claims, for example, is very close to expectations. The jobless claims 4-week average is also not too bad. And besides that, the Philly Fed data is so-so. So nothing too crazy is going on to really hurt the markets or cause it to pump really hard. Then we have the 4 and 8 week bill auctions at 11:30 a.m. may cause a bit more volatility at that time, so watch for that as well. Besides that, I'm not seeing anything else that's too crazy for today. Now, there's also this news right here about the big bank earnings. So we had a couple of earnings that came out. I just want to talk about those. TSMC announced their earnings. They did relatively well, reporting that their net income went up to about $11.6 billion. They also mentioned the fact that they're riding an AI boom and their data is supporting strong demand. So it was quite bullish overall, not bad whatsoever, and their guidance was pretty decent. Morgan Stanley also reported earnings. They had a beat of $2.22 for EPS, with revenue at $16.22 billion above expectations. And then on top of this, they had good guidance as well because of the fact that their net income was looking strong. Good job, Morgan Stanley. Bank of America also posted the results beating expectations. They said their fourth quarter profit doubled to about $6.67 billion, or 82 cents per share from a year ago. That's not too bad, especially because of how rates have been going up. So their overall earnings have 82 cents per share. This is above expectations with $25.5 billion, which is above expected revenue. So not bad. They did mention the fact that they had, the previous bank failures did affect them, but they're very resilient and they're doing a good job at coming back through that. That's why with the jump in revenue and decent guidance, I think that the share price is still going up. I think that they will announce more information about 2025 later, but for now, decent earnings and the share price is up. Besides that, the market is still holding up at least quite decently during the pre-market. I didn't see anything else that was too crazy in the news. I also want to mention that Target has mentioned they're going to be raising their fourth quarter outlook, so pretty good by the time earnings come out. And then I didn't see anything else that's too crazy. There's been a lot of talk about TikTok, whether it's going to be surviving in the US or not. Supreme Court is going to review a lot of things, so we'll see how that goes for them. But that's pretty much it. I don't really have anything to comment on TikTok. There's just a lot of talk about that on social media and on the news. Anyways, now let's just focus on the charts. So as far as SPY is going, the head and shoulders remains present, but we'll have to see if we try to invalidate this or not. We have this resistance up here. We could see SPY rejected 1, 2, 3, and we'll have to watch and see if we get a rejection here or not. I did mention that yesterday. I was hoping that we would try to break through this, and I was remaining very cautiously optimistic nonetheless. So we'll watch and see if we could break 595. If we break 595 today, we have the potential to go up to about 598 to 600, and then we could start pushing closer to all-time highs if we do break past 595 and start pushing. If we can't do that, okay, so this is like the more bullish case, by the way. If we can't do that, if SPY hits below this trend line and we end up losing 590, we can't hold above that, there's going to be a risk of us dumping to about 584, which is where the gap is. And then if we can make a higher low compared to this low, then SPY could bottom and then try to get a bounce like that. So just I want to make that very clear. Can we break past 595 to remain bullish, or do we end up losing 590? Watch that for today. We're at resistance, and we'll see if SPY could break out or not. I'm hoping we get the breakout, but just to be safe, we'll wait and see. Same thing with the QQQ. Now, the QQQ looks stronger than SPY. It's holding above its trend line quite nicely despite the rejections we got previously. If we end up losing this trend line on the QQQ, we lose 514. This could be dipping back down to 512 or below. If we hold above the trend line and we bounce and we try to break past 520, we're looking for an attempt to break out for 524. Overall, with the fact that we're holding above this trend line, this does favor a bounce into the 520s, but we'll see just to be safe. But the Russell 2000 are on a bit of a downtrend. We need to try to break past 226. If that breaks, we're looking for 230. If we can't break down, we lose 222. We're looking for a dump to 220. So watch those levels very closely. It does favor, it wants to push up to about 226. We got to break that for confirmation to really start pushing. If we can't break 226, then we could kind of pump and then dump back down. So it depends if we could break 226 or not on the IWM. So just keep that level in mind. ES is fighting at 6,000. There's a big fight right here, right where this resistance trend line happens to be. If 6,000 breaks, watch 6,020 and 6,050. If we don't break past 59.80, we could be dipping to 59.40. So I'm hoping we try to break past the 6,020 area to start pushing. We'll see if that breaks or not as we're at this resistance right here. So please be very, very careful, at least for now, at least on ES. So we'll see if 6,000 breaks. It's going to be a big fight. If we do break past the 6,000s, this could start squeezing for like those higher levels and then get closer to all-time highs. NQ has a similar setup. Now, on NQ, we're technically on a downtrend. If you guys watch this very closely, you guys can see that. But whether or not this continues depends on some factors. If we end up losing 21,423, we're looking for a dip to 21,267. If this holds, we could be looking for a big bounce for 21,600. So it could go either way, especially as we have a nice accumulation right here. This is favoring upside if we could hold above 21,400. So far, NQ has potential, but we'll see about that just to be safe. That's it for futures. Looking at many of these coins and cryptos, before I talk about individual stocks, just know that Bitcoin kind of has like a cup and handle like structure. This might be dipping closer to about 98,000, if not 97,800. And we'll see if we get a bounce back up to 102,000. So I'm watching for that. Might dip a bit more, and we'll see if buyers step in. For Nvda, we're going to be testing 137. If that doesn't hold, we dip lower and then we could bounce. If it does hold, we could try to rebound here. So we're watching to see if this holds support at 137, and if it bounces back above 140 to really start breaking out. If it doesn't hold above 137, and we end up losing that, we could be dipping to 135 or below, a little bit lower, before we see some kind of bounce perpetuate. So watch and see where we end up basing at. Watch 137. If it doesn't hold, look for 135 or below. And if we can make a higher low, that would be a good sign for us to try to rebound. So keep that in mind for Nvidia. Watch 137, if not 135, and we'll see if we get a bounce off one of those levels. For Tesla, we're going to be likely getting close to about 420. We'll see if we bounce off that. This is a nice accumulation. Looks very good so far, but I want to see if we could hold above this trend line. See, we had this resistance where the trend line happens to be over here. This is tough resistance. We'll see if Tesla could break that resistance truly. We're getting a back test right now. This is our back test like this. We'll see if Tesla could hold 420 and then bounce to closer to 440. Or do we end up losing 420? If we lose 420, we're looking for 414 again, then 409 near the 50 EMA. So watch those supports. Watch 420, 414, and 409. We'll see if these supports hold or not. I anticipate it dips a bit, and we'll see if buyers step in to defend it at 420. If that's the case, it could be breaking out to surpass yesterday's high and to start pushing closer to 433 than 440. So we'll see just to be safe. Apple may retest 237. We'll see if we bounce off that to push up for about 240. So look for a dip to 237 to see if we bounce. If not, we could be dipping a little bit lower for 235, and then we'll see if buyers step in. So watch that very, very closely. For a few more, we have Coin. Coin is going to be dipping to about 269, and we'll see if we bounce off that. If not, look at 267. So if 267 to 265 fails, we could be dipping a lot lower, closer to 260 before we see buyers defend. So look for a dip and a bounce as the most likely possibilities for Coin. For Amazon, we look bullish as long as we don't lose 221. We're favoring 225. We got to break that, and we could be looking for essentially 226 very soon. For Meta, we need to try to hold 606. If we hold 606, we could try to bounce here to about 615 plus and eventually like 620. If 606 fails us, we could be dipping to about 600. So look at 606 and 600 remain supports, and we'll see if we bounce off one of those levels to start pushing higher. For Microsoft, we have this resistance at 428. If that does not hold, we're looking for essentially 424 and 422 as our supports. I think we could be dipping to about 424, and we'll see if we get a bounce off that or not. So look for a small dip on Microsoft and see if buyers defend it in the mid 420s. For Google, we need to hold 194. If that holds, we could be trying to bounce back up for essentially 197. If we lose 193.5, we could be dipping lower. I'm hoping we hold 193 to bounce on Google for 197. We'll see about that just to be safe. The VIX is still looking weak. We still have this gap to fill, so we'll see if the VIX gets a rejection and dumps more or not. So be very patient. With that being said, I thank you all so much for listening. Have a good rest of your day. I'm hoping the market breaks out and continues to push closer to these new highs, but we need to see if this trend line breaks for confirmation. That's why there's a very, very big test for today. Thank you for listening. I'll be back in a couple of hours for another update, and peace out.